Hello everybody and welcome back to Blue Jays Today. We're your boys. We always got something to say about the Toronto Blue Jays. I'm your host, Adam Peddle.
And I'm your host, Nicholas Playlog. And today, guys, we're going to be talking about the closing situation for the Toronto Blue Jays because apparently, according to Ross Atkins, we don't know who the closer is going to be in 2025. That is a real thing that he has come out and said. We're going to talk about that, the implications on Jordan Romano, whether he's even going to be on this team in 2025, and much more. Please make sure to hit that like, smash the subscribe button, and let us know your thoughts about this in the comments down below. So first things first, let's just flash right over to what it was that Ross Atkins said, which has kind of prompted this whole conversation right now. This was from those postseason press conferences, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Yeah, Caitlin McGrath came out with a great article on The Athletic. Go check it out if you have a subscription to The Athletic. And in there, she quotes Mr. Ross Atkins just saying, I don't know. And obviously, when you read that and you have your general manager just not knowing the situation of the closing role, it makes you go, oh, crap, like, this guy's in charge again. But I think there is some weight to that because he's simplifying it, guys. We don't know who the closer is going to be for the Toronto Blue Jays because our closer last year to begin the year was Jordan Romano. And obviously, like we know, he suffered a big elbow injury and we haven't seen him for the rest of the season. He was trying to work himself back to the Toronto Blue Jays. And there was some good updates. I mean, he was throwing from 60 feet away and he was in the Dunedin complex. And there were some conversations like maybe we go and test him out at the end. But we just simply didn't want to risk it. So that's at least a little bit of positive sign that Jordan Romano might be coming back and being healthy. But then it begs the other question, Nick. Are we going to see the vintage Jordan Romano that we've been seeing his whole career? Because this year wasn't that good. Could be some injuries involved in that as well. But, you know, there's a little bit of risk involved here, too, because you have Jordan Romano going into his last arbitration year. You're going to have to pay maybe a little bit more money or at least convince an arbitrator to give him less money to have Jordan Romano on this team for next year because you're not really sure what your version of Jordan Romano you're going to get.
Well, first things first, I was doing a little bit of research on just exactly what it was that he was suffering from. Elbow impingement is what it is, and I was looking it up. Apparently, it's one of those things where if you get the proper surgery and it is done right, it's done effectively, you should be able to, after some decent conditioning, return to 100% of where you used to be. Now that's a should type thing. We don't know if this is what's going to happen with Jordan Romano, keeping in mind that he is going to be 32 years old the following season. So he's starting to get up there in age. I think that the biggest question mark here and why Ross Atkins was unsure as to who the closer was going to be is because of that money situation. We know how he likes to keep his cards close to the chest. Even when you don't even think there's a competitive advantage for it, he does it anyways. And in this instance, there might very well be. Jordan Romano, in the last year of his arbitration, they got to decide how much money is he worth. Throw back to a year ago when the best player on our ball team, Vladimir Guerrero Jr., was taken to the arbitration council hearing, for $1 million. And that's Guerrero coming off of a healthy season. Granted, not the 950 OPS or whatever odd he finished with this year, but coming off of a healthy season. This is Jordan Romano, age, gonna be 32 years old, coming off of a very injury-riddled season, going into the final year of arbitration. I think if last year was any indication, if they're willing to take Guerrero to arbitration for $1 million, this is going to a hearing.
Oh, yeah. And what's scary about this is, I looked it up, and I wasn't too sure about this because according to Spot Rack, they have him actually projected Jordan Romano to make $1 million or more, $1.25 million less than he did last year. And I thought, how is that possible?
Right.
Well, apparently, a team, if they go and bring their player to an arbitration hearing, they can actually go and negotiate for 20% less of their previous year arbitration dollars. So that is something that, Ross Atkins and company might be considering, when you look at Jordan Romano's last year when he only threw up a 6.59 ERA and he only pitched for 13 2/3 innings. So that might be a case that Ross Atkins and company might want to make. Now, you also have other projections based on, MLB trade rumors saying that Jordan Romano is going to make the exact same amount of money as he did last year. But you never know what Jordan Romano's kept saying. They might say, hey, look, I have a proven track record. I've been your closer for the last 4 or 5 years. I had a 2.9 ERA. I've had a whip of 1.1. I got 105 saves for this ball club. I deserve an opportunity to get paid a little bit more because I know I can do it, and I'm healthy, and everything proves it. So this might be a thing, right, Nick, where like we go into an arbitration hearing and we might not know who our closer is until February or even March.
Man, like I totally, like I do understand from a ball club standpoint where it's like, you know, if you're dealing with somebody who's injured like this and whatnot, and you might want to take 20% off, like you're always trying to save a buck, but like what a massive fuck you to a guy that has been here for so long and, you know, been doing such great work. And granted, because he is the closer, it's not like he's been making $20 million a year or anything like that. You know, like their arbitration isn't that great, right? Like what was it, like $7 million this year? I mean, still, like that's a lot, you know, but all things considered in MLB, that isn't nearly as much as, you know, some of the other position players are going to make. So, yeah, just a massive fuck you there, and honestly, like, could cause, well, a bit of a issue with the relationship. And then also, too, even if you do come to terms with whatever deal this might be, and that's assuming that this hearing goes according to plan and they don't decide to just outright cut him, because that is a whole other option that they could do if they just decided we don't want to pay anything to this guy anymore. Let's just go out on free agency and get somebody else. Even if they did bring him back, there's no guarantee that he's going to be the closer either, right?
Yeah, right, exactly.
That's not like it's your role to lose anymore.
Well, exactly, right? I mean, we are still dealing with a guy coming back from injury, and sometimes injury can take a while for you to come back. However, looking at this Blue Jays bullpen, I guess you could argue that if the bullpen were to be the exact same as it was right now, I guess he would be the closer, right? Because, I mean, who's the other guy? Maybe Chad Green?
It'd be Chad Green,
right?
That's right.
Right? But it's, you know, you're looking at an entire bullpen, you're like, well, you know, I guess Jordan Romano has to, I guess, lose that right first, right? I mean, yeah, you got to go through spring training, see how he's doing in terms of health. But if he's healthy, I feel like he's got to lose that right through the actual regular season. So there's also a factor in that on why we don't know who our closer is for next season. But there could also be a factor where, well, what if we go out and we go get another closer in free agency or a relief pitcher? There's a lot of guys out there. I don't want to go too far to details on who exactly all these guys could be, but you got Jay's Journal here in this same article where they quote Ross Atkins being like, there's Tanner Scott, Jeff Hossman, Carlos Estevez, Craig Kimbrell, Kirby Yates, Blake Trinan, who could all be guys.
I'll tell you right now, Craig Kimbrell is not an option. Not an option.
Yeah, no,
I don't want anything to do with Craig Kimbrell.
We don't want Craig Kimbrell. No, thank you, sir. He's pretty washed at this point. But those are guys who would, yes, they would be a closing option for the Toronto Blue Jays. So there's also that factor in. But I do want to cycle back a little bit to the relationship aspect, because it brings up an interesting point where, you know, Jordan Romano has been in this ball club for so long, and he's obviously Canadian, and we have a great relationship with him, and it feels like he would want to play and be the Toronto Blue Jays closer for a very long time. Beyond 2025, you know, if you are looking to maybe extend this guy, you know, it feels like you have to be creating a good relationship with him right now.
I'll tell you right now, if you try to take 20% off whatever his arbitration is, you're not extending.
You're not extending it.
And ultimately, like, if you're not believing in him this coming year, I think that you've made that choice. Like, it is going to be like you're done after this, you know? I think that they're going to be actively thinking about the future of Jordan Romano with this ball team. Now, if he did have to go, like, that is what it is. I'm not as upset about it as I would be a Guerrero leaving or anything like that. I do love Jordan Romano, but I think that a lot of those names would be great. I think that the biggest question that the Blue Jays are going to be asking themselves is, if we take Romano to arbitration, let's say it works out to be $8 million. All right, $8 million you get paid for this.
He wins, of course.
Sure, yeah. $8 million you get paid this coming year. I think that's pretty reasonable, honestly.
Yeah.
Can you find somebody on free agency? Because this is only 1 year remaining, right? Keep in mind, Romano's contract will be up after this. Not like you own him past this. Can you find somebody on free agency who is a better option for 1 year for $8 million? That's what you got to ask yourself. And if the answer is yes, then I think that Jordan Romano is not going to get his money. If the answer is no, then you're going to pay Jordan Romano. But is Kirby Yates, for instance, going to be worth more than $8 million or less? You know, like these are the questions that I think the Blue Jays are going to be asking themselves. And ultimately, that's going to determine, I think, how they address this situation.
Time for a quick shout out to Betway. Betway is the best place to make all of your sports bets on all of your favorite teams. Betway is in collaboration with iGaming Ontario, so you must be 19 years or older to participate. You can also scan the QR code to make your account today. And guys, please bet responsibly. Now, back to the content.
And also thinking about the timeline of the offseason, right? Like right out of the bat, right out of the gates, you got to go and get those free agent relief pitchers right away, right? Because then you're going to have to go to arbitration. I think it's around mid-November, late November is when you're going to find out whether they come to an agreement or not on the arbitration front of things. And if not, then you got to wait all the way till February. So if the Blue Jays, to go get themselves some insurance, if they go and they actually acquire some really good relief pitchers, like right out of the gate, excuse me, then it's like, okay, like maybe we can lowball Romano a little bit if we do not plan to extend him. In that case, I actually would understand where they're coming from.
100%, yeah.
That.
Like at that point, it really just does come down to a financial decision, right? Like, because we don't own him past 2025. Like, if you did, then it's a completely different thing. Because now you're owning like the possible years. But because it's only 1 year right now, you have a, forget the name, forget Jordan Romano, forget the fact that he's Canadian, forget the fact that he's been here long term. An injured or a guy coming off of injury who had a 6.59 ERA over 13 innings and a negative WAR last year for $8 million. Can you find anyone better than that on free agency?
Yeah.
We'll see.
Yeah, essentially like Jordan Romano, and I think you brought this up to me before, it kind of reminds me a little bit of maybe a little bit younger Kirby Yates when we first got him, where, he led the league in saves not led the league, but, he did lead the league, Kirby Yates. Jordan Romano up there in saves for the last, 4 years, one of the biggest, highest save leaders in the MLB. And he's having an injury year, and now you're trying to rehabilitate him and get him back into your bullpen. So what kind of cost is that? I mean, it was the upper close to $10 million range, which is essentially where Jordan Romano is going to be. So if you're okay with throwing that type of dart out, then throw that kind of type of dart out.
Well, Kirby Yates costed us $4 million, did he not?
Right, you're right.
It was $4 million. It was $4 million. I specifically remember that contract.
I like that dart.
Yeah, exactly. Dart. No, I mean that was a phenomenal dart. So if that's the going rate for people like this, then I think Jordan Romano, you might be shit out of luck, dude. Because if they can get somebody like that on free agency, they're going to. But ultimately, folks, as of right now, we don't know who the closer is going to be. Ross Atkins doesn't know. He still has a little bit of time to figure this out. But with all the moving pieces here, with Romano and the free agents, this is going to need to be something where the plan is 100% mapped out.
Yeah, and you got to hope that they've created a plan already. I mean, 2 weeks ago, they didn't have a plan. So you got to hope that they have something going for this bullpen, as free agency, guys, is about 2.5 to 3 weeks away. So you know what we're going to be doing here on Blue Jays Today. We're going to be covering the entire thing right here, and live, doing a bunch of live streams, so stay tuned, everybody.
Yeah, please make sure to comment down below your thoughts about all this. Hit that like, smash the subscribe button. $3 a month, become a Patreon member. Shout out and thank you to all of our current Patreon members and our YouTube members. You are so appreciated.
Guys, thank you so much for watching.
And as always,
go Jays, go!